What's up, gang? Welcome to the Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mershazde. I'm so pumped to have you here with me. Now listen, the Greatness Machine, we're about two things. Number one, people who are living their passions. And number two, those who are creating greatness in the world and doing both of these things despite the odds against them. Each episode, we're going to feature interviews with game changers, business leaders, telling us their origin stories, what made them tick, what got them to where they are now. Why? So it can help you step into your greatness within your life, your business, and your career. Occasionally, you might hear a few solo episodes from myself, moi, as I leverage my 20 years of entrepreneurship as a CEO and founder to help you grow and level up in your journey to scale your life and your business. So come be a fly on the wall, enjoy the conversation, and I'm stoked to have you here with me. Guys, welcome to today's episode of The Greatness Machine. I'm your host, Darius Mershazde, and boy, do we have a special guest. My man, Garrain Jones is in the house. What's up, Garrain?
Brother, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited for us to dive into this conversation.
Man, I am so pumped. I'm going to tell you this. So Garrain doesn't know this. I talked to him. We did a little bit of pre-show, but so I'm a person that's like my number 4 core value is curiosity, and somehow the algorithm in social just like feeds me up. It always gives me a bone when I needed my bone, and so it threw me up a bone here. And I saw Garrain, like I don't remember if you're on someone else's show or if it was your own show, but you showed up in the algorithm said, Darius, you need to meet this guy. Throws up, and he's just talking about a lot of the work he does around transformation. And I was like, that guy seems really, really interesting. Like the way you're talking about life, I'm like, that's how I think about life. And I'm like, man, I want to meet that guy. And most of this show is around an I want to meet that guy conversation for me. And as time has gone on, the level of people I get to meet keeps going up. So yesterday I went to, I don't know do you know Bill Perkins? You familiar with him? His work, Die With Zero?
Not at the moment, but I'm going to write it down. Die With Zero.
Yeah, his book's Die With Zero, but he's an Austin guy, and he had this insane eclipse party. That the reason I went to it yesterday was because on Lake Austin was because he was guest on the show that I'd been trying to get on the show for 2 years. I'm like, man, I want to meet that guy. And then next thing I know, I was celebrating eclipse at his house. So anyway, this show is all about me. Selfishly, the audience knows. So I always say this. I go, this is a Darius moment. It's about me meeting cool people. And then they get to be a fly on the wall and listen to the conversation. But man, so pumped to have you here. Just a lot of gratitude for you coming on the show. Would love, if you don't mind, can I do a little bit of housekeeping? We always have new listeners. I want to, just for 1 second here. Does that work?
Yep.
All right, let's do this. So for listeners who are new to the show, The Greatness Machine, we're about two things. People are living their passions and those creating greatness in the world and doing so despite the odds. And my man, Garrain, is now the short of passion or greatness. So, Garrain's got a crazy background, which I love because I just think it always is an indication of someone that's out there taking a bite out of life. First of all, Garrain is a transformational coach on personal development. He does masterminds, the whole 9 yards. Signed a record label with Ludacris and started writing songs back in the day. He later left the label in 2009. Went the name Steph as an R&B singer. He got arrested for crime and drug smuggling and turned his life around. In 2020, published his book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. And he is the host of the Welcome Home podcast, man. So pumped to have you on the show, Garrain. I'm so pumped to get to share your story with our audience. If you don't mind, though, man, here at The Greatness Machine, we love origin stories. I'd love if you didn't mind if you gave us some of your origin story.
Yeah, man, it's interesting when you were sharing that. I try to put myself not in my own body, but in the the body of a listener. And as you were describing my story, I was like, man, that would be a great movie. But that's all in the process of happening. There's so much to my story. I'm going to start back in 2011, where I was a little bit over $200,000 in debt, living in my car for 2.5 years, sleeping in an abandoned building, sleeping in my storage unit, sleeping on bubble wrap, tried to kill myself twice. And it was the dark of the dark, and I had hit rock bottom, and I had no idea that I could do something with my life other than the one that I was just handed. And I always had the same talent that I have now, but I didn't know how to apply it in a way that could lift my entire life. Like success in every area of your life was a figment of my imagination. And so 3:43 in the morning, 2011, I cried out from just having such a hard time in life. And I'm sitting in my car. I want you to just imagine 3:43 in the morning, sitting in my car on the corner of La Brea and Hollywood, screaming at the top of my lungs, okay, I'm tired of fighting. I don't want to fight anymore. I want to be healthy. I want to be happy. I want to be surrounded by nothing but positive people. I just want to inspire people. And I want to make a bunch of money, but I want the money to represent something that I passionately believe in, that I would do for free. Just show me a sign. And a week later, I'm at the gas station and a homeless guy offers me to have money. And he's like, no, he asked me for money. And I said, you have more money than me, because he had a wad of money. And he said, change your mindset, change your life. A lot of times it's not just what somebody says, it's how you feel about what they say. That moment right there was a conscious interrupt for me. And it's been 13 years. And ever since that moment, the change your mindset, change your life philosophy, I trained myself to do the opposite in areas of my life where I wasn't happy. And it was like the little angel on my shoulder saying, change your mindset, change your life. And so if I would normally use gel soap, change your mindset, change your life. I'd use bar soap. If I would normally take the escalators, change your mindset, change your life, I would take the stairs. Well, that pattern interrupt got me into masterminds, into retreats, getting business opportunities, getting healthy when I didn't have pretty much anybody in my life that was living a healthy, active lifestyle. And my life started to shift according to all of these opposites I was doing. So right now, 13 years later, my life is a direct inverse. I retired my mom when I was 15. I've traveled to 92 countries, speaking all over the world on transformational change. Several companies from 0 to 7 figures in under 2 years, and training some of the top business people in the world on leadership, but in interpersonal leadership, and running retreats and doing masterminds and everything. So my life, from me giving my life back to myself, I ultimately have created frameworks to teach people how, in their frame of life, to be able to connect the dots so that they can live a purposeful life and optimize in a way where most people just lack direction. So in a nutshell, that was from 2011 until now. And I know you have questions.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. And first of all, congratulations on that, because I think a lot of people, first of all, I think a lot, like we had a guest on the show, Pam Cantor, and she talks a lot about epigenetics. And just, we kind of get dealt this hand of cards, some of which we control, some of which we, from an analog perspective, we can change by, to your point, change your mindset, change the behaviors. We can change the inputs to get a different output. So congrats, man. I mean, I myself am someone that has fought to try to be happy, even as much as today.
Yeah.
I went back to an old meditation that I did very aggressively 2 years ago with Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditation, and I went back to today. And one of the key words in that meditation, from a pattern interrupt perspective, is the word change.
Yeah.
You literally say it to yourself whenever you start seeing, when you have an awareness that you're going into an old programming, or you're going into an old way of thinking. So for you, like, obviously you didn't end up, like rock bottom living in a storage facility. You had some pretty interesting success prior to that. And it sounds like that happened at a fairly young age. Tell us a little bit about your background in entertainment, because I think, like, leading up to that moment, there was a lot of success that preceded this, like, fall.
Well, there's a difference between the appearance of success and actual success. Most people, a lot of people in the entertainment industry, because they're seen maybe on the silver screen, or you see them often all the time, people assume that they have a lot of money. That's actually not true.
Right.
Somebody's getting paid a lot of money, but not necessarily the person that's in front of the camera. So I had the appearance of success, but my album never came out. And songs that I wrote for other artists didn't get picked up until after I left the label. So I didn't have any money coming in, but I was on BET, I was on MTV. And so it looked like, and because of who I was associated with, I was rolling in the dough. But my diamond necklace came from me signing with Disturbing the Peace. I didn't pay for it. So I had the appearance of success, but deep down on the inside, when I looked in the mirror and the truth showed up, I was planets apart from actually being successful because I didn't feel myself even worthy of success to begin with. And so that was still the same person that was in his car. What happened was my ego got bigger because of the perceived success. And then I bought into what everybody else thought about me, that I left my sense of purpose. Like, why am I doing this to begin with? It was originally to inspire people and empower people. And then when people started gassing me up, I'm like, yeah, I am the man. And then when ego swallowed my whole life, well, just as fast as there was a rise was just as fast as there was a fall. The unfortunate thing is when I fell hard with ego and no money still. So you have ego and you have no money. Oh, you got a crazy hill to climb. It's different when you're in a state of humility and the frequency of humility, and you understand the power of giving and receiving. But all I wanted to do is take. And deep on the on the inside, I was like, man, maybe now girls will like me. Maybe now I'll be popular. Maybe now I can be fit in. I can fit in. So underneath all of that was a little kid who felt insignificant, who was suffering, who didn't feel worthy of love, who didn't feel like he had love to give, who didn't feel worthy of success, and was feeding off of other people's approval because he didn't have approval of his own self.
Yeah, man. Love that. And I appreciate the vulnerability, because I think that's a really big part of healing, right? Is being able to have the conversations, be able to speak that word, be able to have an awareness. And I have a mentor, Rand Stagen, that says with awareness comes choice, so yeah. Obviously you made some really good choices from there. I want to go back to, some of the stuff you're just talking about. Because I think that there's a lot of context around the work you're doing right now.
Yeah.
It comes from, sounds like a place of like living in the lack at one point, right?
Absolutely.
A place of pain. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your upbringing? Yeah.
So my earliest memory of pain was my parents were separating when I was 4 years old. And I remember my mom said, pick which parent you want to go with at 4.
Damn.
I have a daughter that's about to be 3. I can't imagine ever saying that. Of course, my mom did it. She did, the best she could with what she knew. But at 4,
of course,
we have 30 minutes to leave. Pick which parent you want to go with. And I remember dreading the decision. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I wondered why when I became an adult, because adults, I feel, are deteriorated children. Mm-hmm. And I wondered why I was always late for things, why I always I was always indecisive. I was always procrastinating. Meanwhile, there's a little kid who it's just like an iPhone. If you leave the program running, it slows the phone down. Well, if you leave loops open from your childhood, from things that impacted you, it energetically slows your life down. The running loop was, I don't want to choose. I don't want to choose. I don't want to choose. So imagine a 4-year-old. You see how ABCs work. You learn ABCs, and then it turns into words, sentences, paragraphs, essays, books. But the running loop of all language is continuous ABCs. Well, every time you're impacted with something, it starts the ABC process of a running loop. When done over time, it creates the same effect as words, sentences, essays, paragraphs, books. So the not wanting to make a decision, indecisiveness, the dread that I felt was the ABC version of, as an adult, I'm always late, I'm always procrastinating. I don't want to make a decision. I feel like I can get anywhere in the world in 30 minutes. That's just one thing. We are filled with little bitty triggers and traumas from when we're a little kid. And most people have no idea that 90-something% of their decisions are being made by a disgruntled little child who didn't get their needs met, whose parents maybe abandoned them, or you're not living your actual truth because your actual truth was maybe a trumpet player, and now you're working this job that is just draining your soul because you abandoned the thing that you love to begin with. That's one thing. So that I'm speaking to billions of people right now. Everybody has a thing that they don't even realize is still a running program as a written record of your past from a child who never closed that loop. So I shared that. So that's part of my upbringing. When in the same age, we lived in the apartment complex, an adult saw a little baby, me as 4 years old, and said, "Hey, do you want to go to Disneyland?" And I remember saying, "Oh my God, Mickey Mouse, I want to go to Disneyland." But I remember saying, it doesn't make sense. He said, if you get into that dryer, you'll go to Disneyland. So a grown man picked up baby, me at 4, put me in the top dryer and closed it and tried to kill me.
Why?
No idea. And some naked lady ran out of her apartment, saved my life. But in that moment, I said something to myself. I will never trust adults again. I will never trust men again because that was a man. I will never trust white people again because it was a white man. So that was impacted and imprinted on my life. Thank God I healed it 12 years ago. When I found out, that's why awareness, you can't make a proper decision if you're not aware of who's making the decision. So always going back to the root of when something impacted you deeply allows you to pluck the weed from the root and not from the top. Because if you pluck it from the top, it'll grow right back.
Yeah, man, that's fucking insanity. It's funny what you were saying about your daughter. You said you have a daughter. Is that correct?
Yeah, I have 2 daughters.
You have 2 daughters. So how old are you? You said 4 is
I have
one?
I have a daughter who's 22, Kylia, and then I have a daughter who's 2, and she'll be 3 next October 5th. Her name is Soul, and I have a son that's on the way in July.
Oh, congratulations, man. Children are a blessing. It's funny. Kids become a mirror for, at least I learned that they can become a mirror for us as parents around, like, first of all, you look and you're like, damn, especially if you grew up with any type of trauma, right? Which a lot of people have, myself included. And so you're like, damn, I was that age when that shit happened.
Right.
Like, you're like, and so look, I think you're born in 79. Is that correct?
1979. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm 78. So we're Gen X, right? Which basically means like, we dealt with some fucked up shit. Like now there's a lot more awareness around, like, probably to the detriment of kids' development.
I think it has passed the line of being aware because there's a lot of really soft and timid people.
Yeah.
Every gender that are just like, and if you never build that, you don't survive in a world where it's so cutthroat.
Yeah, the world doesn't give a shit. And so right. I think that there's a great book Angela Duckworth wrote called Grit. And I don't know if you read that book. It's a really, really good book, though, especially if you have kids.
I never read it. So
you should read it, man. Dude, it's a gift. It's a gift around building grit in yourself and in your children. Children is a reference point she uses in the book, but it's around how do we build grit as humans? How do we overcome adversity? And she uses the I really would love to get her on the show one day, but I've actually been hitting her up. And so she comes out of Wharton School and UPenn. And so essentially it's how do you build that grit, right? Because I think there's a spectrum here, which is like high grit and what's the cost it takes what is the cost of creating that grit? And I think you can get there in a healthy way. I got kids, right? My kids are 14 and 10. And they look, dude, like I'm learning from the mistakes of my ancestors, right? And trying to be a better man and a better father and but we have these epigenetics, like we have these predispositions. And I heard somewhere, it was Lewis Howes interviewing this woman that I just reached out to her, because she talks about essentially trauma. You could have 8 to 12 generations of trauma in your body. 8 to 12, like hundreds of
Well,
years ago, shit
I
that
have,
happened to your
yeah,
family.
I have a story for you that speaks right into this. So there hasn't been, my mom had 7 brothers and sisters. They all had girls as kids, and then their kids had girls. And like the last boy was me 45 years ago. Everybody's just been spitting out girls, and I used to always wonder why. And I was like, oh, maybe there's just like rolling the dice. And I believe in all things spirituality pretty much. And so my brother is the family historian, and he found letters from my great, great, great grandmother. Like, I mean, untouched letters that were inside, that were meant to be private forever, after my big mama passed away. And he found this container, this crate with all these letters. He found the exact point where my great, great, great grandmother had a baby out of wedlock. She was married. So our entire line comes out of cheating frequency. So every man has cheated. I mean, just cheat, 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 cheat. I was the first person to break that generational, whatever that was. We were born out of like this line of family was born out of infidelity.
Wow.
And so my brother found the exact moment, written secret letters. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can break this. And so, as far as a devoted husband, a committed husband, no leaky energy when I'm around beautiful women, and all these women come up to me, they're like, thank you for showing me what it looks like. I've never actually seen that before. And so in this generation, I take on the responsibility of being somebody that has shifted the lineage. There's an energy. There's the energy of infidelity, or the energy of cheating, or the leaky energy, and that's why things have opened up. I know it without a shadow of a doubt, for my life in such a beautiful way. And so now soul doesn't have to take on something, because I was willing to take it on for the entire family, for the entire ancestral lineage that stopped with me.
Yeah, man. I love that. It's interesting. I read this, you just reminded me of this. I read this piece of data that says, like, so there's two, like, our prefrontal cortex, the front of our brain, takes in 40 megabytes of information. I think it's 40 meg or kilobytes of information per second, 40 bytes of information per second, right? So 40 bytes of information, 40 pieces of information can be absorbed into our prefrontal cortex. And it's either per second or per minute. Let's just say per second. Whatever it is, that same amount of information is absorbed in your subconscious through your skin, and every other part of your body absorbs 11 million bytes of information in the same amount of time that your prefrontal cortex absorbs information. So I say that because I actually think some of what we're talking about here is, like, if I see my parents doing something, and I mean, I don't have to know that they're doing bad shit, or doing, like, maybe bad shit's the wrong word, doing stuff that's going to perpetuate an outcome I don't want. To know it's happening through my subconscious because of all the other data points I'm getting from their behavior, their interactions. To your point, you made a point of leaky energy. I never even heard that term before, but like, that's all subconscious behavior that our kids pick up on, right? Not because they find their dad or mom sleeping with someone else, but because, or having an affair, like, in an overt way, but because they're picking up on all these subtleties, and they don't know what it means, but they know what it doesn't not mean, right?
Right.
So it goes back to kind of the beginning part of the conversation, which is this, like, changing of the mindset. And so I'd love, if you don't mind, if we pivot into your book, because you wrote a book, Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life, and you actually talked about, like, this almost binary perspective around like, hey, I have these rituals, habits, behaviors, programming around doing stuff, i.e., taking an escalator every time I like look upstairs at the mall and be like, that's how I'm going to go up there, or I'm going to eat this type of food because that's what I always eat, or all the things that you're saying that you did, and then all of a sudden you literally flip the script and you're like, I'm going to do the opposite. And what I picked up from that when you said that was, I am actually breaking my program. I'm training myself to not follow my programming so that I have more control over actually reprogramming the things I want to reprogram the behaviors that don't make sense for me. And I'm building up the muscle, not necessarily of breaking one particular habit, but I'm actually building up the muscle of breaking any habit I want to break, because I am aware of the fact that a lot of my behavior is just straight up programming, and it's just me doing stuff on autopilot, which we're wired to do this. This is a, we as humans got here because we got good at doing that. It is around burning less calories, right? So that we could live off less food, because we were feast and famine up until 100 years ago. So our bodies are programmed to be efficient, and that's one efficiency mechanism. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that, about the book, and that's what I had heard, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, and it was the simplest way, change your mindset, change your life, to explain the complexities of change. And the best way I can describe that is if you look at a duck on a lake and you can't see underneath the water. The duck is just going like that all of a sudden, but you can't see the little legs. Or you see a watch, it's just going around like that, but you don't see all of the mechanics that makes that watch do that. So in order to change your mind, your full self has to be a different person. Like otherwise, because we're like fixed beings. That's why it's mindset. And whatever your mind is set on, that's how you will look at life. So you can have the same outlook on life, and I can give you 15, 20 different things. You'll take those 15, 20 different things and try to fit it inside of the only way you know how to look at life. That's not change. That's just showing you a different variation of who you already are. What I mean by change is every time you go to the refrigerator, you see the same food, that you put the ketchup in the same place. Next time you go to the refrigerator, you open it up and you see the Grand Canyon. It is an actual perspective shift. You have a difference in heart. You have a difference in frequency. You have a difference in energy in your body. You're responding completely different. And I could have spoke in my book to a very higher level of education, but I wasn't trying to reach those people because those people already have a lot, or they have easy access to the kind of that easy access to that kind of education. I wanted to write a book that has practical language on the complexities of life so that you can find something that can be so simple and applicable to your everyday normal life so that you can remember your power, where your energy seeped out, how you gave your power away, who you gave your power away to, and remember all of these practical or learn these practical things on how to optimize your life so that you can raise your vibration, raise your standards, and be in the right energy to attract anything that's on that level. Like, this is why they don't put first graders in fifth grade. You must pass tests along the way. So my Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life is an everyday people's guide to understanding your life on a deeper level without needing to look up 1,000 words, just very practical with action steps on how you can apply it to your life. And I've taken everything that I learned in prison, everything that I learned in sports, everything I learned in being homeless, everything I learned in creating several multi-million-dollar businesses, everything I learned in how I built grit and focus and can be this level of success and grounded and be in the frequency of humility all simultaneously. I've taken everything, extracted the lessons, put those in the book, and ways for you to apply it so you can produce your own version of an elevated life. I think that book is sold, slightly under 350,000 copies with no paid ads, no major celebrity shouting me out. It's just been a thing that people pass on, or whenever I'm on a podcast. And I started writing that book in 2018. So it was like a younger version of me.
Mm.
And it came out in 2020. But the book that I'm writing now, it's called Artist Power: Rediscover the Lost Art of the Little Self. It's going to be at another level, and is going to remind people of what their soul has forgotten. And this is my greatest way to honor this planet, is to teach people how to restore the heart back into humanity, starting with the safest way I know how to do that. And that's through the eyes, mind, and heart of the little kid inside of you.
I love that, man. What, you mentioned this a moment ago, and I think that might be kind of telling as to like a pivot point in your life, but you said you spent 2.5 years in prison. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
And that was on what, drug smuggling?
Yep.
How old were you when that happened?
22. Let's see, I got out when I was 25. 22.
So that was before you had turned your life around, or you hit this moment, right? Because 11 years ago you would have been in your early 30s, right?
That was before. I've had like 3 highs and lows in my life, where it's like you would have sworn I was about to be the next big thing. It happened in modeling, it happened in music, it happened in health and wellness, and then I found and created the kind of messaging that I want to do now in the world, and it all has to do with authenticity and the expression of the little kid inside of you actually getting their needs met, which helps every area of your life. So I was 22 when I went to prison. I was in the top of my career, in the prime of my modeling. I was on billboards, I was in magazines, auditioning for movies and TV shows and booking roles. And I was slated to be the next big thing. And my greed for money, the thing about it is, in modeling and acting and stuff, you don't get your money right away. So sometimes you could do a job and like 4 months later you get your money. This was an opportunity to make money the same day. And I'd never known. It was like Bitcoin before Bitcoin, who was there. And I got the opportunity to drive a car. I didn't know exactly what was in the car, but I knew it was a bad thing. Drive a car over a border, over a ferry from the UK to Rotterdam, drop the car off. They give me 4,000 pounds. And at that time, 1 pound was 2.3 US dollars. So that was $9,000 for a 1-day trip. And I was like, man, I'm going to keep doing this. So my greed for money and that fast cash, it blinded me from all of the other things that I took for granted, like my daughter who was just born, like the business that I had where I was on billboards and I was slated to be the next big thing. I let my greed for money blind me from all of that. And very well so, because I wasn't, if big success would have been given to me at that time, I would have pissed it off anyways, because I wasn't even mentally ready to hold it.
Yeah. That's interesting. So was that in Europe or in the States where you went to prison?
Europe. That was in France.
Oh, wow. Okay. So having,
go ahead.
So having, you're coming out of that though, obviously there was still more ups and downs for you. One of my questions for you is, it's also like kind of where you're at right now, like what you're talking about, which is really like kind of nurturing the inner child, like what makes you, and it sounded to me like you had to go through these trials and tribulations to really strip down to the core of what matters most. How do you speak to that?
Well, I believe that whatever's meant for you is going to be yours. Now, I believe the thing that we have control over is the duration of time. And some people, unfortunately, let that time waste until they hit the grave. So it just might pass on to their kids or something like that. There were many signs that I did not pay attention to. And because I didn't pay attention to it, it needed to send me a big sign that I needed to be still for long enough to remember how much I gave my power away. So I want to get clear on this. I did that route for smuggling drugs 7 times because I know somebody's going to be like, wait, he just said UK, but he got arrested in France. So I want to name that. The 7 times was from UK to Rotterdam. The last one was from France to UK, and I got caught at the UK border. I got caught at the French border, and that's why I did the 2.5 years in a French prison, because I got caught in France. So, yeah, so to really dive in to this, it was the scariest moment in my life of how I have behaved, of who my character was, and what my actions displayed that I never wanted to look at. And then I looked at the rest of my life, and I was like, what was I thinking? I have a new baby. What was I thinking? I was literally in prison on billboards that were in Manhattan in all these different magazines and all these music videos. They're like, well, this doesn't compute. There's a dark side. There's a dark side to the moon to every human that you come in contact with. Everybody has shadows.
Yeah, shadow self.
Some people know how to manage them well and be disciplined, and somebody didn't. I did not know how to discipline my darkness and my shadows. So as much as people saw this bright-eyed, fun, fashionable person, my undertone, the dark side of the moon, was greedy. All I thought about was having sex with women. It's not a bad thing, but when anything that you allow to use you, when it does you, now it becomes your God. So now it became my God. And fast food became my God. Negativity became my God. Insecurity became my God. So there was too many things outside of me that I gave more power than my own God. So I think God was like, all right, cool. Let me sit you down so that you can remember. And it took me 2.5 years in prison for me to remember, and take all my power back from the women, back from the overcompensating, back from the masks of trying to seek people's approval and fit in, back from everything outside of me. So in an unfortunate but fortunate way, prison became the meditation that my soul was yearning for, so that I could remember where the power belonged.
I love that, man. And I have a question on that. When you came out, obviously you said 22 when you got out, or 25 when you got out?
25.
So you're 25 when you get out. You still have this next trial and tribulation. What do you think was the tool that got added there that you because obviously we kind of collect tools along the way, right?
Yeah.
Until you kind of hit this terminal velocity, which it sounds like you're on right now. But what was the tool that you picked up coming out of prison that really helped on the next journey?
The tool that I picked up is was my love for music. Like, while I was in prison, like, they sentenced me to 12 years. I wasn't supposed to get out until after 12 years. And there's only a few ways that you can get out. This isn't one of those things where you get out on good behavior. It's a very different judicial system in France than it is in America. I didn't even get my first phone call until after 1 year.
Wow.
And yeah, like in America, you get it after a couple of days. This one is 1 year. And so the tool, while I was in prison, I remembered I used to love to run. I remembered I used to love to sing. I remembered that I used to love to motivate people. I used to love to draw. And I started doing those things again. And then I was just giving it away. I was like motivating people. I was learning French and motivating them in French. And they're like, oh man, your words are so good. But it's not something where I saw a motivational guy and then I just all of a sudden wanted to do it. This person here, I've been like that since I was 6. I was just a little kid version of it, not knowing what it was, but good things would happen when two people were arguing and I would say something and good things would happen. I've always noticed that. So it was the unconscious remembering of my power, because everything I'm sharing with you is as I connect the dots looking backwards. But what happened while I was in prison serving a 12-year sentence, I remembered that I loved all those things and I started doing all of those things. And for some reason, my mind, it felt like it just started to go and get calmer. And I would give art pieces away. I would draw portraits of other people's family members. I would sing. And every time I would sing, an inmate goes, and every time you sing, it makes me feel free. And I would just sing, but I was already feeling that. And then I started running, which is my favorite thing to do in the world. Not for abs, not to lose weight, but it's just what I love to do. This is where all my ideas come. It's like my conversation with God. I started running in prison where nobody was running during the breaks, 1 hour in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. Within 30 days, there was 60-something inmates running with me.
No way.
And when I was running, there was less fights, there was less drug deals. And before I knew what value was and adding value to a space, I was doing that just by serving my heart, and it was spilling over. So when I felt free, and I want everybody to get clear on this. I wasn't fighting for freedom. When I felt free, because I gave myself, not trying to fight for somebody else to save me, when I gave myself my own interpersonal freedom, the power to possess my own mind and use the things I love to fill my spirit. They called me into the office out of nowhere, and I'm going to say out of nowhere, when I felt free. They said, Jones, we retested the drugs, which they had no reason to test those drugs because they had already tested them 3 times, 6.2 kilos of heroin. But then I felt free 2 years later. Jones, we retested the drugs. 90% was fake. And for the amount that was real, you've already done the time. You're free to go home.
Wow.
So the tool that I got was a formula that I now use today to build businesses. And that formula always has to do with something that lights your soul on fire and allow this plastic universe to wrap itself around that energetic portal. And when it does, now it carries the coherence, frequency of the heart, not of your mind and what everybody else thinks of you. And whatever carries that frequency, it's always guided, it's always protected, unlimited amount of energy, unlimited amount of creativity. And so I've built retreats, masterminds, leadership programs, and everything around that energy that was so powerful. It broke me out of prison. It was like I was too big. I, meaning the energy, was too big for the space, like a baby's too big for the womb, and that produces birth. So I got out. And I still wasn't aware, so I couldn't teach this back then until I got into personal growth and I could learn how to articulate certain things. Then I started creating all the frameworks to teach people how to break out of their own prison, which you don't have to be behind bars to be in prison in a relationship, stuck mindset, stuck libido, stuck business, whatever. I teach people how to have the tools to break themselves out of a prison that they unconsciously put themselves into.
Oh man, that's such an interesting story. It's funny. It's like you when you went to your essence. I have a good friend and former guest on the show who's amazing. We talked about essence, right? You're like, what is it that makes you who you are, right? When you live in your essence, the world will just give freely because you're in that frequency of like being, right? And you're not doing it for ego or for trophy. You're doing it because you're just being your best version of yourself. So that's what I heard you say. I know that we're running low on time here, and so first of all, when we were starting the show, I forgot to tell you I always ask a question called the greatness question, and so I'm going to tell you what it is right now. But before we go to it, I know you're doing a ton of cool work where people can connect with you around coaching and masterminding and just all the amazing things you're working on right now. So I'm going to give the greatness question. I'd love if you can tell our audience how they can connect with you, how they can learn more. And I know you got a great program coming up, how they can connect on that program. And then we'll go to the greatness question. Does that work for you, Garrain?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So audience, you guys know I do this. We always want to connect everybody with how you can connect with the guest, and then we go to the greatness question. But since I didn't read it, the greatness question is: what is the number one barrier to creating greatness that you've overcome in your life, and how did you overcome it? So I know it's going to be easy for you, but because you've been talking about it, the whole show's been based on this. But yeah, before we go to the greatness question, if you don't mind, what are you working on? How can people learn more? How can they connect with you? I'd love for you to educate our audience.
Yeah, I have, just basically this entire call, I've created just a movement around that. And my company is called Artist Power, and the artist is the little kid who remembers, and everybody is a creator. So everybody can fit inside of that template. Just creating a launching pad for your life from the right combination of people, the right combination of leadership, and the right combination of education that would support you in having emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills so that you can do more of what you're already doing and actually enjoy it from a state of peace and harmony within, which often flows outwardly. So my next retreat is June 6th through the 10th. In Austin, Texas. There'll be 75 to 100 people, and it's going to be out of this world amazing. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful. If you're looking for like-minded people who are up to big things, who are goal-driven, and they have this element of life where they actually enjoy life, or they're at least striving for it. I have a saying that says flowers that grow together grow much faster together. So if you're out there and you're looking for the community, hey, my friend, you found it. You do not have to carry this roof alone anymore. And so just find me on my website, GarrainJones.com, or Instagram, Garrain.Jones. And right now is the next retreat. And we have a membership where we have 5 live calls with some of the most amazing leaders in the country that are on my team, Artist Power. It's called Artist Power Collective. That's the name of the membership. I do 1 live call a month. So that is a movement. You grow with people. You want to hyper speed your growth. Find the right combination of people with the right education, with the right leadership, and you'll learn in this house of mirrors from all of those people, and you will accelerate at the template that they're moving. So that's how you can find me, and I'm just 1 click away.
How often are you doing retreats? Just because
I do retreats 4 times a year. I do 2 masterminds a year, retreats 4 times a year, and if you're in Austin, Texas, I do a thing called Voices of Expression, which is a free service for the community of Austin or surrounding areas, where we give you a touch of all of this magic in person. It's really cool. The next one is the 17th of this month at VUCA North Lounge. And and then the membership is year round.
Awesome. So we'll make sure we put that in the show notes. The reason I ask that is sometimes we produce a few months in advance, so this may not come out in time for the June. But everyone will be able to connect on your website. We'll make sure we put
Next
all.
one will be in October.
October, cool. So we'll make sure this is in the show notes. We'll try to get this out so people can potentially attend the June date. But check out the Garrain's website, and we'll make sure we put all that stuff in the show notes. So, man, listen, I just gotta say this. It's interesting because we're talking about some of the higher power stuff, and I'm like, man, God always like gives me what I need when I need it. And like, I needed a lot of this conversation today. It felt good to hear a lot of your testimonial and your life story is very inspirational, my friend. And like, I appreciate you coming on here today to do that for our audience and even for myself. So thank you. I just want to thank you before we go to the greatness question. So I appreciate you, my friend.
You're so welcome, brother.
So we'll repeat it one more time. What is the number one barrier, Garrain, to creating greatness that you've overcome in your life, and how did you overcome it?
Safety. When you don't feel safe inside of your own body, you do not get to be great, because you're keeping a portion of yourself from yourself. And to live inside of your bigness, that means you trust. And safety is the literally gateway to trust, to love, to have confidence, to be in the abundance frequency. It comes through the filter of, I feel safe enough to be who I truly am. And that is something that I have overcome. So it makes sense why my life matches the belief that I have in myself, because I feel safe enough inside to be who I really am, not who you want me to be who I really am. Garrain, I am a powerful, powerful force of love and freedom, inspiring greatness within myself and the world.
Love it, man. Garrain Jones, thank you for coming on the Greatness Machine today, my brother. Appreciate you. I'm pumped to know that we're in the same city. We're going to have to hang out in real life.
For sure.
And guys, go check out all Garrain's work. We'll put it in the show notes. Until next time, peace out, everybody. We love you. You are listening to The Greatness Machine, and that's a wrap for today. Listen, if you love what you heard, subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform that you're tuning in on, so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. We have tons of great people coming on, and we're stoked to have you here to enjoy it with us. Leave us a review. Tell us what you love most about this particular episode. We love getting the reviews. We love to see what you guys love most. And if this particular episode, made you think of someone who's leveling up in their business and in their life, print screen, share it with them. Leaders are the best givers, and after all, we're all here to support and grow with each other. And in case you want to see some of the fun behind the scenes shots or some of the things that we're doing, I'm actually writing about this in my weekly newsletter. Go to www.therealdarius.com and subscribe to my newsletter. We're talking about fun things like business and life and mindfulness and cryptocurrencies and gosh, I don't even know, everything and anything, but it's tons of fun stuff I write about. I try to get it out on a weekly basis. You can subscribe at www.therealdarius.com. And with that said, look, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you. I love you. Peace. We're out of here. See you guys on the next one.
She's my lover.